6 weeks before Amy Winehouse died, 60,000 people watched her collapse on stage in Belgrade. She forgot the words to her own songs. She could barely stand. The crowd started booing, and just off stage, the people running her career were watching it happen. The next morning, they cancelled that show, but they didn't cancel the tour. They kept the dates, they kept the contracts, they kept the money moving. 5 weeks later, Amy Winehouse was dead, and the people around her had known for months that she should never have been on that stage in the first place. Amy Winehouse was 22 years old when she walked into a studio in New York with a producer named Mark Ronson and recorded an album called Back to Black. She had written every word herself, about a man who had left her, about drinking to forget him, about choosing the bottle over the relationship and knowing it was wrong and doing it anyway. It was the most honest album anyone had made in years. In 2008, she stood on the Grammy stage and won 5 awards in a single night. 5 in one night. No British artist has ever done that before. The whole world was watching her, and the whole world could already see that something was wrong. Because Amy Winehouse didn't just write about addiction. She was living in it real time, in front of everyone. The beehive hair getting bigger, the eyeliner getting darker, the photos outside her Camden flat at 3 in the morning. The tabloids called her a mess, a train wreck, a disaster. They put her on the front page every single day and called it journalism. And the people who managed her career, who booked her shows, who collected 15% of everything she earned, they watched the same photos and made the same calculations. She was still selling, so she still performed. By 2011, Amy Winehouse had not released an album in 5 years. Back to Black was still selling. The royalties were still coming in, but the record label wanted new material. The management wanted touring income, so they booked her on a comeback world tour. They called it the Back to Black Tour. They announced it in the spring of 2011. The people closest to Amy begged them not to do it. Her friends said she wasn't ready. Her father Mitt said publicly he had serious concerns. Even Amy herself reportedly told people she didn't want to go. They went ahead anyway. The first show was in Belgrade, Serbia, June 18, 2011. What happened that night was filmed by hundreds of people in the audience and shared around the world within hours. Amy walked on stage and stood in front of 60,000 people. She could barely speak. She forgot the words to her own songs. She sat down on the stage monitors. She hugged her backing dancers instead of singing. The crowd started booing. 60,000 people booing the most talented singer of her generation. She stood there and took it. Her team cancelled the remaining European dates the next day. They issued a statement saying she needed to get healthy before continuing. But they did not cancel the whole tour. They rescheduled. They kept the remaining dates on the books. They still planned to send her back out. She was dead 5 weeks later. After Belgrade, Amy went back to her house in Camden, North London. The same house she had lived in for years. The same streets she had walked at all hours. The same neighborhood the photographers had stalked out for the better part of a decade. People who saw her in those last weeks said she seemed calmer. She had stopped drinking for a period. She was seeing friends. She was talking about music again. Her bodyguard, Andrew Morris, who was with her constantly in those final days, said she seemed like she was trying. She had started drinking again in the last week, but it was not the chaos of Belgrade. It was quieter than that. On the night of July 22nd, 2011, Amy was in her bedroom. Her bodyguard checked on her at around 10 past 2 in the morning. She was alive. At around 10 to 3, he checked again. She was not breathing. She was 27 years old. The official cause of death was accidental alcohol poisoning. Her blood alcohol level was more than 5 times the legal drink drive limit. She had drunk herself to death in her own bedroom While the people who managed her career were still working out how to reschedule the tour she could never have been put on. Amy Winehouse died on July 23, 2011. Within 24 hours, her album was #1 in 19 countries. Back to Black re-entered the charts everywhere simultaneously. The label that had been pressuring her for new material was suddenly selling more of her old material than they had in years. The industry that had watched her deteriorate in public for 5 years held memorial concerts. The tabloids that had photographed her stumbling through Camden at dawn published tribute issues about her genius. The television networks that had run her worst moments on loop called her a legend. Everyone loved Amy Winehouse now that she was dead and could not cost them anything. Her goddaughter, Dionne Bromfield, who Amy had personally signed to her own record label when Dionne was a teenager, tried to build a music career after Amy died. This year, at the Brit Awards, when the music industry held a tribute to Amy, Dionne was not invited to perform. She was not consulted. She was not involved. She went public and said the industry had deliberately closed doors to her ever since Amy died. That the people who profited from Amy's memory had no interest in the person Amy had actually loved. The tribute went ahead without her. Mark Ronson accepted an award and talked about what Amy meant to him. The same industry that booked her on a tour she couldn't handle stood on a stage and celebrated her legacy. Here is what I want you to understand about Amy Winehouse. She was not a cautionary tale. She was not a disaster. She was not what the tabloids said she was. She was a 27-year-old woman who wrote songs about her own pain with complete honesty, in an industry that had no idea what to do with that kind of honesty except sell it. Back to Black has now been streamed over 8 billion times. The music video just crossed 1 billion views on YouTube. 20 years after she recorded it, people are still listening to it every single day like it was made yesterday, because it was made from something real. And the people who own that realness, who collected the royalties and booked the tours and issued the statements, made their calculations and kept making them right up until she was gone. She asked to go home from the tour. She told people she wasn't ready. She went on stage in Belgrade anyway. The music industry did not kill Amy Winehouse, but the music industry made every decision that put her in the room where she died. And when she was gone, they put her face on a poster and called it a tribute. She would have been 41 years old this year, the same age as the album is turning. Back to Black is 20 years old in October. Her band is touring to celebrate it without her. If this changed how you see her story, subscribe, because every week we tell you the part that got left out.